Hi there, friend. Welcome back to the Joyfully Prepared podcast. I am your host, Wendy Bergen, and this is where we trade overwhelm for confidence and panic for peace of mind. And today we're going to dive into something I think you're going to love, a slow, doable, no shame way to get your family ready for hurricane season. Now, technically, hurricane season is already underway. We're about a month into it. It starts on June 1st, goes through the end of November. But thankfully, here on the East Coast of the United States, we haven't had any threats of hurricanes, so we still have some time. I have put together a 12-week hurricane preparedness checklist. And this isn't just a checklist where you buy things. This is going to be a strategy, a path, a countdown to calm, really. The more prepared you are, the less you'll fear, and you'll be able to strategize better with your family as you put certain things into place. So why 12 weeks? Why not the whole 6 months? Or this can be used throughout the year. It doesn't just mean it can be used for hurricane preparedness. It can be used for winter preparedness, for winter storms, other types of winter storms, ice storms. It can be used for electricity just going out, power going out. So this is a list that is just kind of across the board type of list to protect you, your family, and your home. This is why 12 weeks, another reason. I don't know about you, but I don't make my best decisions in the Walmart parking lot when there's a tropical storm 2 days out, right? So you tend to buy all the things or none of the things, or you forget what you're supposed to buy. So that's not when I want to be figuring out how to purify water or whether I even own a flashlight. You want to know things ahead of time. Thus, the Hurricane Preparedness Checklist. So this checklist breaks down hurricane prep into 4 categories: food and water, gear and gadgets, organization and personal prep, and home and comfort. Each week you do 1 or 2 tiny things in each category, and that's it. No stress shopping, no doom scrolling, just practical progress. So this is how it works. I made the checklist with real life in mind. A tight budget, it's broken down so you can do a little at a time. If you have someone in your home, a family or friend who is medically fragile, we talk about having a generator for oxygen or keeping medication cool. Talk about that. Pets, babies, elderly parents, we address that too in the checklist. In fact, right at the top of the checklist is what I call the preparedness profile. These are just simple questions to help you get specific about your needs and your family's needs. How many people are in the family? Do you have any food allergies? Do you rely on medication, oxygen, or refrigeration? What do your pets need? And hey, do you even like the shelf-stable food you have? If we're going to prep, we might as well prep for our families, not just some generic everyone. And I cannot stress that enough. You're an individual family, you're an individual person, and you may have food allergies, or you may have medication needs or dislikes. There are some things I know my family is not going to eat. We've talked about beans. My kids are not going to eat beans. I have one kid who will eat beans. But knowing how to prepare food or have shelf-stable food that everyone will eat is very important. Having enough water, very important for my pets, for my chickens. I need to prepare for all of these people and animals. So let me just kind of run through some of the ideas that are on the checklist. In the food and water column, you'll start by storing 5 gallons of water or a case of bottled water. Usually there's 24 to 36, sometimes there's 40 16-ounce bottles. Start with the water. Always start with the water. Please have plenty of water. I'll be doing an episode about water coming up as well. That's week 1. That's totally doable. I think if you buy the water in the water jugs, it's like $1.25. So you're looking at $5. And I think a case of water is less than $5. And I personally would recommend you bringing that much into your home on a regular basis. Remember, the rule of thumb is Well, FEMA says 1 gallon of water per person per day for 2 weeks. So that's 14 gallons of water. For one person, I do not think that's enough. I would double that if I were you. And that's a lot of water, 28 gallons of water per person. So when you start thinking that way, like I said, I'll be talking about water in the next podcast episode, but the more water you can bring into the house, and if you can start storing some of that in your freezer, that would be great too, because that'll help keep your freezer cold if you lose power. Over in the column of gear and gadgets, you'll find things like gathering flashlights, testing your emergency radio, and check on your generator to see if it's working. Do you need to get it serviced? Do you have fuel for it? I don't remember which hurricane it was back in New Jersey, and we had 3 portable generators. One of them would not work, so we're down to 2. One of them we took to my husband's mother, so now we're down to 1. So we went from 3 to 1 just like that. Thankfully, we were able to sell the one that wasn't working, and somebody was a mechanic and knew how to fix it. So that worked out. But we were still down to just 1, and which we're thankful for. But get your generator out, start testing that, making sure it's going to work for you. Another category on the checklist is the organization column. It gets into things like having spare keys for your generator, for your house, for your shed, copies of important documents, and a go bag with your essentials. I'll link that so that you know what to pack in your 72-hour kit, but just having that as part of your hurricane prep or your emergency prep to have your 72-hour kits updated and ready to go is an important part, but you don't have to do it all at one time. I've talked about that too. You do have time and involve your kids if you want to, or just don't. And just take your time and put things together. Everything's okay. It's okay. And finally, in the home and comfort column, I'm covering everything from bug spray to boredom busters like games and cards, puzzles to do with your family. Because when you have bored kids, they get into trouble. So we've got to keep them entertained, but also because if they don't have devices or TV, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, and they tend to whine and complain a little bit more. But there's also opportunities to spend great time with them, teaching them about what's going on around them and reading with them as well. Now, I do have a couple bonus sections on the back. How to handle bathroom business when the plumbing stops working. Yep, we talk about buckets and kitty litter. And how to manage your fridge and freezer to keep your food safer longer. And just a little corner for me reminding you that you're not alone and that preparing can feel good, not scary. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this checklist is because I have heard stories of people who have been in tornado situations or wildfire situations and hurricane situations, actually, flooding, where because they were not prepared, their brains don't know exactly what to do. Our brains are built to keep us safe and secure. And you would think that that would work really well in an emergency situation. However, our brains are also crazy. And I mean that in a kind way. Like, our brains do things that don't make sense when we turn around and look back at them. I've talked to you about how our brains, like I said, are there to keep us comfortable, protected, and safe. And even if we set these amazing goals for ourselves, like I want to lose 20 pounds by the end of the summer, that's a really good goal. It's achievable. And our brain's like, that's great. But when we start taking chocolate chip cookies and chips and McDonald's away from it, our brain's like, whoa, hey, girl, now that's not going to work, because now I'm not happy, I'm not comfortable, and I don't feel safe because you're eating a whole bunch of salad or you're exercising more, whatever it is. And our brains actually will talk us into sabotaging ourselves. So that's exactly what happens in an emergency situation as well. I heard one story of a woman, I believe it was in a hurricane in Texas. And I think it was flooding that was the problem. And she had to grab whatever she could get and take it out because she had to evacuate immediately. Well, what did she grab? She grabbed a toaster. Why? She's running around the house grabbing whatever, and she grabbed a toaster, or it was a kitchen mixer. It was something silly like that. Coffee maker. I don't remember. Some appliance that had no business going with her because her brain was grabbing onto something that was comfortable. If it was a coffee maker, that's understandable, right? Especially if she does that every single day. Just know that your brains don't work right when you're in an emergency. That's why we want to be as prepared as possible. Our brains are great. I love my brain. This part where it tries to keep me safe, I'm very grateful for it. It does a good job. But when I'm trying to do something in an emergency or I'm trying to better myself, it needs to step aside. So we want to help the brain and we want to prepare ahead of time. Like I said in the very beginning, I don't want to be hanging out in the Walmart parking lot with everybody else trying to get water, flashlights, batteries, food. Everything goes away when a hurricane's approaching. Everything. Except for maybe tofu. I don't know. That's about it. So that's what the checklist is all about. And this checklist is not complete. These are baby steps for you to start thinking in the way to prepare your brain, right? This is to help your brain learn how to prepare. So one of the items under food and water is start to just write out 3 meals that you know your family will eat. That's the one. 3 meals, and figure out what ingredients you have already on hand for those meals. Once you do that, like the next week is take an inventory in your house of all the different ingredients you have, and then go shopping for those ingredients that you might be missing for those 3 meals. This way, your brain is learning how to create a food storage. It's learning how to create shelf-stable meals in case something happens. One of the items under the gadgets and gear is to have an alternate source of cooking. I always highly recommend having a butane stove and fuel. I'll link that in my show notes as well. It's the easiest alternative way to cook. And I recommend having skillet type meals as far as your shelf-stable meals, just because you might not have access to an oven unless you know how to do Dutch oven cooking, which good for you. So those are kind of some of my recommendations regarding the reasons why I put the checklist together. We've got to be confident, but it can be overwhelming. So we have these little baby steps, little one here, little one there. And if you want to go crazy and do more, you don't have to be limited to each little box, each little week. You can do as much as you want as you have the energy, the space, and the time for. What I'm hoping is that we can become more and more prepared, more and more capable of getting our homes ready and in order so that if we need to feed other people, clothe other people, house other people, serve, that we are confident. Because remember, if our brain thinks that something's not right, it's going to be less likely to serve other people, even if you have everything prepared. So that's our goal at Joyfully Prepared. It's to become prepared for you, your family, and with the ability to serve other people. And your gifts, talents, and strengths are going to be different and similar to mine, depending on the circumstance. But you might be called upon because of a good and loving God to serve other people, to bring comfort and aid to somebody. So by having your home in order and your family ready, you're more capable and confident of being able to do that. Thank you for listening to the Joyfully Prepared podcast. Enjoy your day.